Have you ever felt kind of trapped by your own preferences, by your own opinions, that really strong sense of self that we all have? Well, today we're going to explore a Zen practice that's actually super simple, but profound. It's a path to freedom that could completely change how you see yourself and the world around you. All right, let's get into it.
So it all kicks off with this really powerful and, let's be honest, kind of confusing idea. I mean, we spend our entire lives trying to be somebody, right? To be special, unique, to get noticed. But what if the real path to fulfillment is the total opposite? What if it's all about becoming nobody? It sounds crazy, so let's unpack what that really means.
So what on earth does that even mean, to become nobody? It's not about vanishing or losing yourself. Nope. It's a journey, and it starts in the most unexpected of places.
Okay, so let's go back to 2001. A brand new Zen student is starting his practice, and he's at a crossroads. He gets presented with 4 paths to enlightenment, and the choice he makes right then and there, well, it sets the stage for a pretty amazing, life-changing experiment.
So these were his options: purity, wisdom, fulfillment, and enlightenment. Now, you can imagine purity and wisdom, they just sounded like these impossibly huge mountains to climb. But fulfillment, that felt different. It felt, tangible, something you could actually do in your day-to-day life. And so that's the path he chose.
And this, right here, is where it gets really interesting. He didn't pack his bags and head off to a monastery. He decided to practice fulfillment right there at home, in his own kitchen. And it all started with a simple little practice of just saying yes.
And here was his first test. He grew up on that rich, nostalgic Shanghai cuisine, lots of flavor. His wife, on the other hand, cooked for health, low salt, low oil, really plain. To him, her food was just boring. I mean, it's a perfect battleground for the ego, right? That little voice in our head that says, I like this, I don't like that.
So, he made a vow, a really simple one, but incredibly difficult to actually do. He would eat every single meal she made without a single complaint. No adding salt, no sneaking in some sauce, and, this is the key, no internal resistance. He would just say yes to whatever was on the plate in front of him.
And at first, it was just pure suffering. He was miserable. He missed all the food he loved. But he stuck with it. And then, a few months later, something started to shift. He began tasting the natural sweetness in the vegetables, something he'd never noticed before. His body actually felt lighter, clearer, and that's when he had the big realization. He wasn't just accepting the food. He was loosening that iron grip of his own preferences.
So this little victory in the kitchen sparked a much, much bigger question in his mind. He started thinking, if saying yes to food could create this kind of inner shift, what would happen if I said yes to everything else she asked?
And this led to the next big test. You know the moments. Can you do the dishes? Right at the climax of a movie. Hey, can you vacuum? During the final seconds of the game. For the first whole year, he just gritted his teeth and did it. But by year 2, he realized he wasn't just washing dishes, he was scrubbing away his attachments. And by the 3rd year, this incredible, unexpected sense of freedom started to pop up.
It was this daily practice of surrender, of just letting go, that led to a massive shift in his entire way of being. And it finally revealed the true meaning behind that paradoxical quote from the beginning.
So here's the crucial point. His wife loved him more, sure, but not because he was being some obedient robot. It was because the internal conflict was gone. By stopping his own resistance, that constant tug of war between what I want and what she wants, it just dissolved. Me started to genuinely transform into us.
And this brings us right back to that central question. Becoming nobody isn't about disappearing. It's about liberation. See, when you no longer have this rigid self-image that you have to defend all the time, there's no one left to argue. There's no one to get offended. There's no one to suffer. You're just free.
This source material uses this absolutely beautiful metaphor for the shift. Instead of being a temporary, defined cloud, getting pushed around by the wind, always changing shape, you realize that you're actually the vast, open, unchanging sky that holds all the clouds.
And what's really interesting is that this idea, it's not just in Zen. The source actually draws a parallel to Christian teachings on surrender. That complete, total offering of the self to God's will. The language is totally different, but the core practice, dropping the ego, it's exactly the same.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do this? How can you or I find our own first doorway into this kind of practice without, completely blowing up our lives? First things first, and this is probably the most important takeaway of all, this practice is not a tool to make your spouse happy or to please other people. I mean, that might be a nice side effect, but fundamentally, this practice is for you. It is for your own liberation from your own inner conflict.
So the way to begin is actually pretty simple. 1. Start small, super small. Pick something you usually resist, a food you're not crazy about, a tiny chore, maybe a conversation you'd rather avoid. 2. When the moment comes, say yes and really mean it. Don't just grit your teeth and tolerate it, truly accept it. And 3. Just observe. Just watch what happens inside your mind and your body when you finally let go of that resistance.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We all have things we automatically say no to, big and small. It's just instinct. This practice of yes suggests that behind one of those walls of resistance, there might just be a doorway to a more spacious, more peaceful way of being. The only question is, which no will you try to open first?